All right, we're gonna get started.
Okay.
Sure.
On-
Marie, take it away.
All right, this is, some of you don't know, this is the CI2 portal, that Joe's. And, we are the gatekeepers of the SharePoint admins. So, the, A3 app that we created is accessed actually from right under here under projects, if you go under A3 form. Okay, you click on A3 form, brings up a SharePoint page, which you can expand so you don't have the side links in your way. Gives you some information about useful tips. And one of the things that we did for the A3 was that the app is all about inputting your information. As far as getting the information, there's a link on every page for the instructions and questions. We also have a link here for the MPO Teams channel. So the this link goes to this page in SharePoint, which is an explanation of, you know, what the app is all about, the purpose that we have the app, you know, who to reach, going to, this is the actual list that it's, Power Apps is using as the data source. So it kind of describes, you know, what the different fields are so that people understand. For example, if you're in a field called tools used, that it's a multi-select field, so you can go more than one response in there. There's some other things about like practitioner grade must be selected as to whether you think it may or may not meet expectations and stuff like that. Just information about each field that's in the form. Also a note, the requirement is specific to questions 3 and 7, such that you shall not be able to move to the next question until your input meets expectations. So you'll actually be stuck there if the MPO says, sorry, you gotta rework it. So that was one of the requirements that we had to try to get more quality into what was being input into the questions.
So stress test the MPOs to step up as well. If it passes their muster and we say, well, how did this make it?
Yeah.
We can have that conversation.
Yeah. Approval, once question 8 is completed, the requester, the practitioner can then click a button to send it for final approval. And it would go to your approvers, which we have a list of approvers. And you'll see as we're going through the form as to how these fields actually work. Okay, so on this start page, we have the button to start here, some information, the path to certification here. This is a link to the Greenbelt training information that's on the site. Then you have to have a project before you can get your Greenbelt certification, and this links to the certification information on the site. Then there's the Black Belt training information, which then again you need another project completed for Black Belt certification. This links to the Black Belt certification. So this is the path to certification with links to the information on the site about it. So once you hit the start project here, it actually comes up with the records that have been entered into the system. And what we did was to, this is a filter button, so that you don't have to look at a zillion cards. All you have to do is click created by me, and it filters out yours. Or you can click on where your role was an MPO, and it brings up the record where you were the MPO on that record, or where you're the mentor. So all these filters are here for you to find subsets of the records that are in the list. Project title, task status, can be by any of those. If you pull out in progress, it's color coded. All the in progresses are green. also go by department. And this is, being pulled, right now, there's only 2 departments because right now the records that are in here are being pulled from Active Directory. At least the main information on the records is being pulled by Active Directory. So, let's see, if I go created by me, okay, and I wanna edit this record, you would hit the pencil. Okay, and it brings up, the basic information page. Some of the stuff that's on this page, like the approvers, is only gonna be seen by the admins. So, with you guys, you pull this up, you won't see that. And there's a link to the project list and a link to the instructions, okay? These are all nav buttons at the top. This will actually print your page as a PDF, just the page, just what you're seeing on the screen, it prints. But there's another PDF function at the end that's different. So these fields, the title, practitioner, the department, the work type, the organization, and the installation, these are all auto-populated from Active Directory. So you get to choose. The rest of these are actually choice type fields or input type fields. And these are multi-select fields. You can put multiple names in there. This is also a multi-select field. As you can see, there's 2 items in there.
Are those emails coming from the gal or from the NICE?
Yep, from the gal. Yep. So you can input information in here, but the stuff that comes from the gal is auto-populated. And then just some instructions down here that if you're going to be submitting these for certification, you know what to do. There's a certification level for you to choose. You know, you want to click on the project for certification and you want to put in your MPO. So that's the basic information that gets completed, and of course then you save it. Okay, and then you can either use the next button or you can use the tabs. And you go to question 1. Okay, so in question 1, the question 1 is really what the rubrics used to be. So we just read into the questions. And so this is where you can put your information in. It has a rich text field, so you can highlight if you want.
Yeah, make something in decipher that.
You know, and then it also has the drop down for what tools you've used, so you can multi-select your tools. It has this attachment field, which is kind of unique because this, when you upload an attachment, it shows here. This is the viewer, the attachment viewer that I was showing, asking about. So you can actually see a preview of your attachments that you've uploaded.
Just like DTS.
And it also tags them to the question. So these were all uploaded pertaining to question 1, so that you know which ones go with what.
Right.
Okay, and then further down, practitioner would grade themselves, and then they would send it to the mentor. So clicking on this actually will it will do the workflow, and it sends you back to the home page. Okay, and let's see. She gave it a workflow. Jennifer did a fabulous job with the workflows. Power Automate. And so there's the flow that comes in. Basically it says please view as HTML, so you can actually see. And it gives you the information as to who completed the portion of their A3 to review it. If you see any issues, reach out to them for the information, and it has a link to the item, so that it brings you back into the app. Okay, so it brings you back to where you were. Actually, not where you were, but, because we were on question 1.
Yeah, and the send to mentor, if you scroll down, Marie, for me on this page, that is not on questions like 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. It's not required to send to mentor on those, but it is there. Joe wanted one there in case somebody said, well, I don't know if I got this right. You can just click it and it'll alert your mentor that you're working on it as kind of an FYI. So it's the same one on each of them except for 3 and 7, where you cannot proceed until it does meet requirement. And that email for 3 and 7 is different and specific to 3 and 7.
Right, that makes
So-
sense.
So, sorry, if you go back to form 3 or 7, is that mentor button, is the prompt different? Like
Yes.
notifying the person, like, this is a required step, you're not gonna go any further, like, so if you, if you go straight
Click
to
on 3.
can you?
Click on question 3.
3?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yep.
okay, yeah,
yeah, we changed the icon for those, so.
yeah, okay.
So, yeah, going back to question 1 though, that was, one of the things that goes on here is that.
Hold on, Marie. Question.
Just a question
Oh,
for you,
yes.
'cause I'm not familiar with your system. Is there a requirement to send it to the mentor?
On 3 and 7, yes.
Is the mentor a true approving official of this process?
It depends on the process. Joe requested, this is Joe's requirement, so if you want a question specific to his process, you'll have to ask him. But the options are that you can do it as a green belt with no requirement for certification. You can do it as a green belt as a requirement for certification. You can do it as a black belt with no requirement for certification, and as a black belt as a requirement for certification. How the workflow processes that is dependent upon what you choose on that basic information, as whether it's for certification and are you a green belt, black belt. It'll either go to the mentor, and Joe has said yes, that is okay, depending on those options. If it's for a black belt and for certification, then the approvers are totally different, and it processes that. So,
Yeah, so if they're going out for black belt certification, then it's required to go to the NPO for, that's a requirement at the MAGCOM level.
And black belt certification also then final approval is
Right.
there's a final approval
Yeah.
authority.
For the final approval authority, for them to get certified at the MAGCOM level
Yeah.
for green belt, certification, not black belt, 'cause that's our level.
Yeah.
Yeah, just where my thought process is for this question is more like this, and then also for this morning, it's, are we consistently building in additional reviewers that are not necessary to ease the job of the approver with that mentality, when in reality, it's an additional layer that is now slowing processes down and deciding ahead of time for the individual that actually should be the decision-making authority.
So this.
Well,
this-
right here-
The way this works, this approval part, so this is basically under the framework of, I am doing a project under the 8-step practical problem solving method. So the mentor is typically gonna be someone who's conversant in all that methodology versus you may have a sponsor who is, your actual decision maker. So those are separate, but the mentor's important to, it's kind of like the pitch coaches, so they're a part of the process to sort of make sure that what you're pushing toward the sponsor is, validated, you know what I mean? Is gone through the rigor of actually being tested and not.
Yeah, and as Joe specified to us, Joe said the mentor should already be working with the practitioner on this. So it shouldn't be like the mentor's going, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know somebody was working on this. They'll already have that knowledge.
Yeah, and here's a way to look it up too. We have provided
the other part of the workflow then after the mentor and the individual think it's ready for evaluation, and is Mark Barboza in this workflow? Because right now, Mark schedules the black belts.
Yeah, as in the
Again.
final approval. Yeah, it's the same approval, like for the black belt certification, it's the same approval group that's on
Okay.
there now.
So me, Joe,
Yeah,
Mark,
it's the, it uses the same. group.
same thing,
Yep.
okay. And then the ultimate approver, the final approver is only one, and that's Brew. And maybe that's your point, you know, Brew's the final black belt approver, nobody else, I mean, he hasn't said no to anyone we've recommended yet, but it's his signature that is the final as the MPO for the Air Force.
Sure. No, that's actually not my point though.
Okay.
Like my point is, a lot of these processes, and this is not necessarily a reflection of this one at all, we naturally build in levels of bureaucracy. And so it's how do we remove these? Because if I submit an MFR to my commander, and he's not the decision-making authority, and he declines it, I now have the ability to actually go to the next level. Because he was not able to actually make that decision. That's not within his responsibility. And so now I go to the next level. And then if that reviewer now also says no, I go to the next level. And so I just constantly get concerned about building in additional reviewers, because a mentor is great until they aren't. And then it's actually just a massive gatekeeper.
And we have a very good example of that right now, where a practitioner wasn't getting any help from the mentors, and then I helped her out. It was an RPA thing, just happened to be talking about RPA anyhow. So now there's some dynamic between the mentor, whose feelings are hurt, but there's no requirement per Joe for that person to go through the mentor ultimately.
Yeah.
They're a mentor,
So-
yeah, they're just that, they're a mentor.
Yeah.
You can fire a mentor all day long. Change a mentor.
So I don't know, but I don't wanna get into details, but.
Yeah. The idea here though is that you can look up approved certifiers. So
Okay.
perhaps, you know, if the person that you're working with isn't cooperative, you can go and look up by filter. You can look up your organization and you can find the practitioners. This list is only approved certifiers. So this is not intermingled with approved
So this is black
certifiers.
belt qualified.
These are the folks that, this is actually a sub-list of the practitioner list, so it's.
Which is not kept up to date because it's not connected to the metadata in the CAL. Because Michael Steele left Mason 3 months ago.
Ah, okay.
And so and Les Ross is dead weight. He left the MPO role after he got promoted to GS 15 over a year ago. He's still on the appointment letter.
Been that long?
Yeah.
Did he even
So-
do an appointment letter? I thought he did.
He just never floated the subject back by A1. That's on me as the ecosystem person to go to A1 and go, boo. But, so that's another issue with the practitioner list that we saw with the data pools in the past few weeks, but, so are we actively using this with the certification now?
It's in testing, but we
Okay.
have had very few testers. Another component that we have built in here is that the mentor grade and the mentor feedback fields are disabled if you are not the mentor. So in this case, I believe I am also the mentor, so I have access to, you know, making these choices and
So you said evaluation, so our eval form or questions or the ratings that we use to evaluate a black belt, is those embedded in this?
No, it's just, it's in the list. It's in this, it's in this list that, was the lookup for the, MPO. So in this particular list, these are the ones that have their, the requirements of black belt certification, I believe. Yeah, and so, and by the organization. So this is gonna be a choice that the practitioner makes. If they happen to know the person themselves, then and say, oh, okay, I already know, I don't need this list. This is there in case you don't know, or in case you need to choose some other person, because maybe they're out, you know, on a duty and not available. So again, these two fields are only enabled for mentors. This is a field that has all of the comments that are made. It's it shows you basically, you know, what time the comment was made and by whom. I hadn't been making any comments in here, but every time I log into this, it does record my name and what time I'm in here.
So, and at the bottom of that page, it had 163 views. Is that your view count, or is that's the view count for this specific project?
That's probably
That's
for
just a SharePoint
the
generated
SharePoint
number, which
page.
is not reliable.
So it's,
Yeah.
okay, it's
Yeah.
minus.
The amount of times that Marie and I are in
Yeah.
here
Right.
refreshing.
Yeah, we see that with
So,
the game
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not, SharePoint statistics are not
Yeah.
reliable.
And a little note, this PDF viewer, the PDF button to the right of the attachment, displays the PDF. Well, actually, you have to be on a PDF, this is a JPEG. And this down arrow actually will, download the attachment. So, let's say, let me see, do I have a PDF in here? That's a PDF, I don't.
Do the documents that get loaded in here automatically populate to the PML?
No, not yet.
Okay, but
Yeah.
the plan is for that to,
We have to figure that out, cause this
Yeah.
is a list and the PML is a library.
right,
So it's not a one-to-one and the metadata is slightly different.
right.
So it's a matter of possibly building that in the future,
Well,
when this
at
is
least,
final.
at least if we do the list of the documents associated with the project go into the PML, just a list, then we know at least what's there as we go, oh, well, for the functional community, this process has been, you know, work in process and completed review process, we know we should have at least 180 documents in total, here's the name of the documents, like, I think that's half the battle, is just knowing, because right now they're being selective at what documents they're actually loading into the PML, we're like, no, we need all of it, so we can hand that over to the functional community and say that multiple ways to skin a cat, right? Here's all the data artifacts, and going back to those practitioners to say, it's kind of like a accountability check, right? We go to the PML and go, okay, well, you completed your project, so now that it's completed, I should see that it's in the PML, so I should see that ticker increase by a 1 project count, right? But if there's 5 project documents associated with this, then I should see 5, not 3 or 0, in an increase in number for total artifacts in the PML. There should be a congruency. I think that's a starting point to chase and monitor those for the building.
Yeah, I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what, I know Joe had mentioned
Yeah.
that, these projects here would have a link to an artifact maintained in the PML. That's at least the way he was talking about doing that. I don't know if he's still doing
So moving on to the next question. Let's see, does this have a PDF? That's a PowerPoint. There we go. No, that's Excel, sorry. It doesn't do previews of Excel, but you can download it and it will open Excel. No, it doesn't do previews. But anyway, each of these screens for the questions have the same type of format. So it's consistent. You are able to, again, you can download these as well. Like if you were looking at somebody's project and you wanted to see this particular attachment, you can just go here and download it. And this is a feature that's consistent on every screen. Now when you get to question 3, if the mentor grade does not meet requirements, then it disables all the rest of the tabs, including the next tab. So that you cannot go forward until, and of course, this gets sent. The mentor can send us.
But But they can fill that out as much as they want to and hit save and it won't delete their data.
Right, yeah, so that, this goes to the mentor, does not, and the requester. And then they do, am I gonna get anything in my email? Am I-
Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. I would go to question 8, Marie.
Yeah, okay.
I think
So,
this is just emails.
yeah, so then you proceed, once you do get, once the mentor does say that it meets requirements, then all of those buttons are enabled. So then, question 4, 6, these are all the same. Question 7 also has that disabling capability because this is another checkpoint.
Sorry, Mary. Yeah, we're
Alright,
listening.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so on question 8, okay. Question 8, after everything is all done.
Gotta scroll the left pane.
Okay, so, okay, we're on question 8?
Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
scroll that pane right there.
And then, oh, here we go.
Yeah, send to
So,
approve.
after it comes back from the mentor, then you can go send to the approver. So everything's all done, you got approved by the mentor, so you're sending to the approval team. And so then that fires off an email to the approval team with the link, so that they can come here and take a look at it and give their final approval. Now this, approvers button is only visible to the approvers, and this is the screen that they see. They can put their comments in here, they have a couple of corrections. They give the approver grade, either it meets standards, which then changes the status to approved, and the project completion date is auto-populated for the day that this happens. If it does not meet, it's not approved, and let's see, when it gets submitted, that sends another email notification to inform them that it was either approved or not approved. So, another feature on this page is that, actually it's on, back up, it's on screen 8, is that the practitioner can actually pick on this summary. And
That's nice.
yeah, and right now I only have these 2 fields plus these attachments. I could put more in here, I could put everything in here.
Yeah.
But this was basically just to see what people would do. So when you, click the PDF button, it creates and sends a summary. And it sends an email to me with the link to the location of it, and the summary is actually in a separate document library. And it's titled by the, title of the project. So this would be titled Testing of 365 Fields.
That's really nice. I've been in other, in games this way, when I try to go to print something, when I go to control print a screen as PDF, I get this really weird, it like takes a 2-page document into like this 16-page document, cause it's got like this big QR whatever circle, and it like takes up, like, I don't know what that is, I'll have to show it to you, but I have to like skinny down and cut screen, and it disrupts the formatting when you try to go print like a summary. I think Productable
So
does
wait.
something similar too.
Yeah.
So this is really nice, because when I say, I'm gonna share this project with you, and for me to export that data, you usually end up having to send them a hyperlink. And that doesn't help for some people, especially the higher ups, where they're like, let's like send it to me in email so I can read it on my BlackBerry or something like that, because they're not logging into Gain on their BlackBerry. And so that's a limitation. So this is really nice to have.
And there's your, PDF. So,
And this was kind of created in a way to somewhat mimic the A3 that gets created on the PowerPoint, where you have all 8 questions with, everything's kind of jammed in there together. We couldn't create that specifically. We can't create the PowerPoint because that's a premium connector. So we had to do it this way. This was the only option without any of the premium connectors. This is the only option, so.
there is
So that's it.
PDF.
is there any kind of, you guys thought about yet about, ways to identify, because one of the things we do when we do evaluation of black belts, for example, is we look for scalability, processes that are scalable, or identifying as a potential candidate for leading process or scalable process. Is that?
That wasn't a requirement that was given to us.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but if
That's
it's,
like the next.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about that a while back, and
Yeah.
you guys said you had to work through a lot of this stuff first.
Yeah, we first had to get the projects, in here.
Yeah.
But to your point, on a review board to identify a leading process, when we do go engage with the functionals, it's nice to have that one pager export, so I can have a murder board, you know, of here's the 5 processes, and here's the 6 versus the 8 versus the 3 versus the 1 artifacts, and it's all summarized on one sheet, and we can go and sit there and talk about those and drill into that. That's nice to hand over to functionals to say, this, let's digest this, and then tell me what we need to go extract specifically from those projects. It just helps narrow the focus, versus having individual tabs open on different screens, which would probably naturally happen anyways, as I'm talking myself through this. But that's the first step, is to be able to hand all these PDFs into a consolidated PDF, that the department, federal employees are given that capability to merge multiple PDFs, to email that one to a functional community and say, here's your homework, and then go, now I led myself to another question. Can I ask, because this is tied to the GAL, I can now tag that functional, regardless if they're the MPO or not. I can tag somebody in the GAL who works at that functional headquarters and multiple people to go in there and assess a project.
If you know who that person is.
And they would probably, yeah, we that's part of my ecosystem role is I go through the key personnel roster, and I go to the execs and like A1X offsite in the CAG, and I would task out that way. But I'm guessing they would need to be assigned in here as a mentor. Is there a role for functional review?
Or there would have to be a separate field,
Yeah.
and they would have to have permissions as well, so then you have to let us know.
Right. Yeah.
And then those would have to be kept up to date.
I see that
So
being
that's another-
the next step as the in theory of constraints, lifting the constraint to the functionals to say, go review. Yeah.
So when you're back on the home screen, back there. Okay, when you're back on the home screen, and you are a practitioner submitting a new project, you would hit create new.
Like how it has your dashboard too.
And, if the required fields like project title, team mentor, and team lead, team members, if those are not filled in, you'll see that it disables all the rest of the navigation. So those fields have to be filled in order to enable and move forward. And again, this is populating from the GAL. You put my name in there automatically, my email, my installation, organization happens to be the same for me, and the department and the archetype. So those are all, and it also automatically sets the status as a new project. So these are all automations that have been put into place to help practitioners make it a little easier.
Yeah. One of the future options that we've discussed, it can't be done right now because of how the practitioner list is currently. But the idea that Joe had wanted is, let's say somebody is doing this for their green belt certification. Once it hits approval, the idea would be that Joe first said, well, then they're approved as a green belt. After they've been reviewed, that means that they're approved, and so it would update their status automatically in the practitioner
That's why you're saying
list.
I love you, and they're like, kind of just like, okay, I'm like, yeah, okay.
So,
now
and the
I've
same
got it.
would be
Okay.
for the black belt as well. Unfortunately, we
Makes
can't update the practitioner list as it is right now because of how it's designed, and that's part of the automation of bringing in that information from the GAL, because every time we have to assign an organization, a sub-organization, those are all lookups, and Power Apps can only have 12. We have
Per app.
per app, I don't know how many, we have a lot. In the practitioner list, there's
There's a lot.
probably 20.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Because it also includes different fields that people don't even see because of how we've had to design it with 23,000 records. So after we move the practitioner list to an app, we'll
Which
be
is
able to,
different.
we'll be able to get rid of some of those fields, and hopefully,
Yeah.
a lot of those updates and things that are manual will be automated,
So what's the timeline for that? Because I tell you, that's huge.
Yeah,
I spent
well-
3 hours pulling that one list
Yeah,
just the other
well,
week.
the A3, whenever the A3 is approved, we can finally go a little more forward with this, but I mean,
We're
the
working on
A3
this
took
right
us
now.
a year and a half.
It's
so,
complex, it's a
yeah.
complex system.
Yeah, well, the thing of it is that while we were working on the A3, we had to learn Power Platform at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully this one will be a little.
This one is going a lot faster.
So the department is moving, I mean, we saw the briefing at AFMC last week where they're doing records management on this suite too, and so that's a new thing that I'm now aware of that reminds me we have a requirement by law for records management, and I don't know how we do that with Crowd Vector. Maybe the powers that be with the knowledge that we have can help us, figure out but it's a law, we're not, everything else is nice to have, but we have to abide by the things that are law, that can get us in trouble, and that's one of those. And being that it's all here in SharePoint, and that's where a lot of projects, I heard General Alvin, our Vice Chief Staff of the Air Force last year say, shame on us for not using the tools that we have, that we've invested in, because we're not even we're investing into other things, all these software factories, but we're not even using to the fullest extent the tools that we currently have paid for and funded. And so we're starting to see a crackdown on, no, you can't have that because we have this.
But it would also be nice if they would give us the tools that are also available,
Yes.
that just because they're premium,
Right.
there are a lot of things that we could do that we're not allowed to do because they will not, they will not give us the premium
Yeah.
option for that. And even beyond that, the Air Force won't even approve a lot of the premium connectors.
Right.
Can't have, BI professional. There's a lot that could be done with that as far as dashboarding and graphs and all of that. Now, like the graphs that are on CI2, Marie is the only person who can update those. I can't update them because of some little quirk in Excel will not allow me to update them. So it's always on, So there's a lot of those things that could be done if we
Yeah.
had the licenses to do that.
Yeah.
Which are available to some, but not to all.
And that was
So-
my comment earlier about staff CN is employing more of these technologies, just on Microsoft Teams alone and through all these apps, but not to the fullest extent, which could fully enable the department. So you go, yeah, I could go do a campaign on Microsoft Teams, but I'm still handicapped. It's not to its fullest extent with the Crowd Vector technology what it could actually bring to the table. So we have everything halfway.
Yep.
And so it just makes this so much more complex.
This is some additional functionality that I've been playing around with that we may be incorporating into the practitioner app that was just up here previously. Is that this is pulling from Active Directory. This is Joe's record in Active Directory. This is Joe's record in SharePoint list. So you can see the difference
Yeah.
in the information. Okay. So the idea here is that, do you want to fix it? Do you want it to show what's in Active Directory, or do you want it to show? It doesn't come up yet. Something is up here.
There's not a lot of stuff associated with this.
Okay, something's going on with that. But anyway, what would happen is that it would bring up a form that has like a basic information form, and it would, if you had clicked on it on this side, it would fill in the Active Directory. If you clicked on it from this side, it would keep the information that's in the practitioner list. So that's something that, we're looking to build into the previous one, this one. So these are some of the things that we've been working on, and
This is nice because, so can any user see this list like this?
No, this
not
is.
yet.
When it's released?
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
this is
Mhm.
the future of the practitioner
This
list.
is this is a very nice view versus the old SharePoint, like the toggles. I mean, it's functional, it works, but this is very modern, very
much more sexier, and the fact, you can see who's registered in there,
Yes, you can.
Yes.
that's very helpful.
And I would also like to see a view where you don't have to know a name to find a practitioner.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
So
filtering.
I know that's, we have that little app that,
On the filters on the A3?
yeah, with the one that you guys, loaded that someone else made for us, like, that's
Oh,
very
yeah.
nice. I think it could be a little, like, the form could be a little more straightforward, just in the way it's built, like, I would just move some things around.
Oh, I know.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
one, like, where I can say, I wanna see everyone who's in half A.
Yeah, the
half
filter
A2.
that Marie has with the A3, that would be something that would be built into this so that you can do that.
I think
Okay,
what she's
so-
talking about is.
Yeah, so that one right, that one, yeah,
This
that's
one.
the one.
This is the one that I think
So
Ryan made.
I really like this
Yeah.
for its functionality in that because a question that I get a lot, and now I've built something to redirect people to this, because this is the best way if someone says, I need a black belt, how do I find one?
Oh, why not use the view that's already,
Yeah.
I will send this one.
but why not use the view that's
This
already
one's
in
not
practitioner list?
Because
It's already, we already have
Yeah,
a view
so-
for black belts,
because I understand that,
then you don't have to leave.
the reason I like that one better is because I can search, instead of just like throwing a whole bunch of, so I can say, okay, I am in this MatchCom or this thing, right? I just select from that menu, and I don't think that this view is not great, like, I think it, again, could be organized a little bit better, but I like that I can go and, okay, I say I'm Air Combat Command, and now I'm, this unit or this
Well,
wing,
yes.
right? And
So
it'll
this
pop
is
in.
organized by installation, right? How is this searched?
Yeah, this is either filtered by wing or by installation. You can do either one,
And not by process?
and that's what he has. And then, of course, the color coding over here
Yeah.
is telling you.
Just pointing out something that, if you want to have a breakout by process, it makes sense that we also link similar to what we have on our current structure in our PML in the SharePoint is, you had it by function already. There's functions in there.
Yeah, the A1, A2. Will anybody able to see like this total dashboard, once this is released too? This is really nice to see where the status is, just at one glance. This is helpful for visual management, and then exporting the PDF of where they're at. For the executive reporting that we do.
Yes, by the way, the trash can is only visible by admins. So, any old user just can't come in here and trash something. And so is the approver button. So any practitioner comes in, won't see approvers and won't see the trash can. So it's,
Yeah, cause from this, you can start to make your pivot tables, for the functional community area, if and when they get associated with the projects in the PML.
okay, so those are our projects that we have been working on.
So this is for projects, this isn't for the idea ingest, right?
Or process.
Or process, I have an idea, ingest form. But they both have the eight-step process, and I don't know where to go from here, but I like this compared to where we used to be on our SharePoint. This is awesome, and I'm very, very excited about this.
And you guys use this to track, projects that we use for certification?
We will.
We will.
That's
Yeah,
it.
we can do that.
He's developing this, or he's doing something with the Opusworks contractors too for project tracker type stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's,
But I think
this
he's
is
cutting that
replacing
one.
that.
He's cutting
Yeah.
that effort.
that was the first step.
Yeah.
Was Opusworks doing training too, or is that that also?
Yes, they have
Yeah.
training, but then there's sort of an unlockable feature where you can go through the eight-step PPSF in Opusworks.
Got it.
But most users don't ever see that because unless someone unlocks it for you, you won't know it exists.
Got it.
And all this came out of, Gain, Cloud Vector was stood up and it was handicapped by the Platform One experience. And so we needed this, but we couldn't do it because we were handicapped. So we built the requirement. Joe had them tracking off on this. They had this for a year and a half. And so now we see, so where do these two efforts combine to complement the end state of what we need to empower Mr. Lombardi to help him build the business case to say, stupid, let's get the functionals in together. And you know, like we had a congressional on Friday. I was at the airport typing away, and this last minute congressional came in, and who's using these apps? And I'm like, never heard of Power BI. Yes, I know it's used in our external influence, SharePoint. Yes, all these other things, never heard of it. Don't care about them. But the apps within this is starting to explode. The department's starting to invest more money on these apps. And just, you know, one of my takeaways from this is to go back to, with their feedback, go back to South CN or whoever is the keeper of that and go, where's your onboarding list? What's the out years? What are you guys prioritizing and racking and stacking to empower the department with? Because we shouldn't invest any more money on other capabilities if I know that South CN's, that's a fraud, waste, and abuse for taxpayers' dollars. You know, like, that's a risk, and I need to paint that picture for Mr. Gaucher, for Mr. Lombardi, so he can go have those conversations. But right now, we can't have those conversations because we're all in our own little silos, and it's very frustrating. At the end of the day, we're all building similar tools for a different purpose, but we've got to figure out when do they come together to make them look seamless to the users without the bureaucracy laid in. And keeping that perspective in. I don't know how to build that.
Well, I don't subscribe to this a framework by which there's a single tool or a single seamless experience.
Yeah, right.
I think that problem solvers and innovators should be able to use tools, just like a carpenter has more than one tool in their toolkit. They know how to use a screwdriver and a hammer and a chisel and a whole bunch of other things. What we want to do is we want to make sure that these things generate unique value, they don't duplicate effort, and that they complement each other or clearly separate where you need to keep them separate. So, I mean, I see a ton of functionality that is pretty awesome and would not some things that we could try to replicate on CrowdVector, but wouldn't necessarily add value in doing so, or might produce a less valuable solution. And I didn't see enough of this to know if this is a better approach, or CrowdVector is a better approach, or some other things a better approach. But clearly, you're building a tool to specifications. So it's a unique application.
Right.
The challenge, you have to remind yourself when you're building internal applications on. Number one is I like the strategy of using, something like SharePoint, Power Apps is that low code, no code environment tends to be more efficient and maintainable than hard coding, straight coding some application, because you have the life cycle cost of maintaining that. In the Scott's world, you're outsourcing that maintenance to somebody else. And then you also benefit from multi-client knowledge and perspective, right? So there's always a balancing act between those two worlds.
And so I need your help because you're the IT, the innovation IT hat, right? So, and Bruce doing his Gartner research on tech suites, right? So, to help with that recommendation to fish or cut bait one way or another, or justify yes in all three or all four, and this is how we use them. And so if you don't know enough about this one, then that's another one that we have to study and know enough to be able to generate. And so I think your relationship with the ladies here is critical to help. So you don't have to become the expert. I mean, you're going to go fish around in it for what you need to know to validate what you need to write a report on to make a recommendation. But they know this in and out, much like you guys have been spinning pretty fast to learn the CrowdVector technology coming from IdeaScale. It's a new I don't know anything about that one. Let me go learn that. Let me go deploy it as I'm learning it, right? We're all doing the same thing. And I just don't know, with his training and effort and then what Jim's supposed to be providing, where this all comes together. But I really like this. I'm looking forward to this deploy. Any other questions?